My brothers and sisters, imagine walking into a place designed to make you forget your Creator, a place filled with flashing lights, false hopes, and broken dreams, and suddenly you see a prayer room, a quiet corner where you can bow your head to the Almighty. Imagine being surrounded by vice and temptation, yet finding a plate of halal food that reminds you purity is still possible. What does this teach us? That even in the darkest of places, the door of mercy is never shut, and the Almighty places reminders for us to return if only we open our eyes. My beloved brothers and sisters, when we look at the reality of life, we find that it is filled with contrasts, light and darkness, truth and falsehood, purity and corruption. These contrasts are not without purpose. They are placed before us so that we may choose wisely, so that we may recognize the difference between what uplifts the soul and what drags it into ruin. A casino represents one of those stark contrasts. It is built on the allure of quick gain, yet it thrives on the losses of countless souls. It shines with lights, but behind that shine are tears. It hums with laughter, but hidden within that noise are cries of despair. And yet even there a reminder can exist, a space where a person can pause and reconnect with their Creator, a meal that feeds the body in a way that is pure, permissible, and blessed. Do you see the lesson here? The Almighty never leaves His servants without guidance. Even in environments where vice seems overwhelming, He allows opportunities for goodness. This is because every human heart carries within it a flicker of light, and with the right reminder, that flicker can grow into a flame that dispels all darkness. The presence of halal food and a prayer room in such a setting shows us that guidance and reminders are not restricted to places of worship. They are scattered throughout our life. Wherever you go, you may find something that pulls your heart toward the Almighty, if only you are willing to notice. Imagine a person who has been consumed by the addiction of gambling. Day after day, night after night, they sit at the tables, losing more than they win, breaking apart piece by piece. In their heart, they may feel hopeless, but when they see a small prayer room tucked away, they may pause. That pause may seem small, but it could be the pause that saves them. One sajda, one sincere tear, one whispered word of repentance could change the entire course of their life. And what if they taste halal food after days of carelessness, realizing in that moment that purity still matters? That taste may awaken them to the reality that there is still good left in them, that they can still choose differently. We often think that people only change when they are in the perfect environment, when everything around them supports that change. But the truth is, many transformations begin in the most unlikely places. The person who turns away from sin does not always begin their journey in a mosque. Sometimes it begins in a prison cell, sometimes in a hospital bed, sometimes in a casino prayer room. The Almighty's wisdom is not confined to our limited understanding. He places openings for His servants wherever He knows they will need them. That is why we must never lose hope, neither in ourselves nor in others. Think also about the symbolism of halal food in a place of haram earnings. It teaches us that purity is always possible, even when surrounded by corruption. It tells us that if we look hard enough, there is always a permissible option, a way to obey, a way to do right. If someone in a place of vice can still choose halal over haram, then surely you and I in our daily lives can do the same. Whether at school, work, or with friends, temptations may surround us, but the halal path is always there, waiting for us to take it. We live in a time where the lines between right and wrong are constantly blurred. Entertainment, social media, businesses, lifestyles all push us to forget what is permissible and what is forbidden. But when we make the choice to eat halal, to pray even in difficult circumstances, we are declaring, I will not be swallowed by my surroundings. I will rise above them. I will choose what pleases my Lord. This declaration may be silent, but it is powerful, and it is recorded by the Almighty. Now let us reflect on ourselves for a moment. How many times do we find excuses not to pray? We say, I was too busy, I was at work, I was with friends, I was in a place where prayer didn't feel right. Yet here is a reminder, if a prayer room can exist in the heart of a casino, then surely we can find a way to pray in our homes, in our schools, in our offices. The Almighty does not demand perfection from us. He demands effort. If we are sincere, He will make the path easy. If we desire to please Him, He will open doors we never imagined. There is another lesson here too. The importance of not judging others harshly. When someone walks into that prayer room in a casino, the world might say, look at this hypocrite praying here after committing sin. But the Almighty may see something entirely different. He may see a servant struggling, trying to hold on to whatever faith remains in their heart. He may see sincerity in their tears, a sincerity that wipes out their past mistakes. Who are we to look down on the efforts of someone else? That one prayer in the middle of a place of sin may be more beloved to the Almighty than 100 prayers prayed in comfort by someone who takes their faith for granted. We must also realize that these reminders serve as beacons for society at large. When halal food is served in such places, it tells the world that purity matters. It reminds people that no matter where they are, there is always an alternative, always a choice. And when a prayer room is established, it is as though the call is being made. Turn back, it is never too late. How many hearts could be touched simply by seeing that reminder? How many souls could be inspired to say, if there is space for prayer here, then surely there is space for me to return to my Lord. My brothers and sisters, life is short and every moment counts. The presence of halal food and prayer space in unlikely places should awaken us to the reality that we have no excuse. If someone caught in the clutches of addiction can still bow down, then why not us? If someone surrounded by temptation can still choose halal, then why not us? If reminders can exist in the heart of vice, then surely we can create reminders in our homes, in our communities, and in our hearts. Reflect also on the broader message that the Almighty's door is always open. No matter where you are, no matter what you have done, you can turn back. You can return. You can change. And sometimes the very environment that you thought would drag you down can become the place where you rise again. A casino may not be a place you expect to find guidance, but guidance belongs to the Almighty, and He gives it to whom He wills, when He wills, and how He wills. So hold on to hope no matter your circumstances. Seek out the small steps. Choose the halal. Perform the prayer. Resist the haram. These steps may seem small to you, but they are monumental in the sight of the Almighty. And just as a prayer room in a casino can exist as a symbol of mercy, let your heart become a prayer room wherever you are. Let your actions be halal, even if the world around you is drowning in haram. Let your life be a testimony that no matter where you stand, the choice to obey the Almighty is always within your grasp. My beloved brothers and sisters, there is something remarkable about the way the Almighty places opportunities before us. Often, these opportunities are not grand or dramatic, but subtle, almost hidden, waiting for the one whose heart is open to recognize them. A small prayer space in a casino might seem insignificant to some, but to the one whose soul is weighed down with regret, it could be the very ladder by which they climb out of despair. A plate of halal food in a place filled with greed and temptation may not seem like much, but to the one yearning for purity, it is a reminder that even in the midst of corruption, one can still choose what is pleasing to the Creator. When you reflect on this, you realize that the Almighty never leaves His servants abandoned. The Quran itself tells us that He is closer to us than our jugular vein, that He hears the silent cries of our hearts. If this is the reality, then is it surprising that He would allow spaces of light even in the middle of darkness? For the one who seeks Him sincerely, He will always open a path. That path may not be where you expect it, but it will always be there. The prayer room in a casino is not an endorsement of sin. It is a rope thrown into the stormy sea for the drowning soul. And those who hold on to it may find themselves lifted to shores they never imagined they would reach. This teaches us another powerful lesson, that we must never belittle any opportunity for goodness. Sometimes we think that unless we can do everything perfectly, there is no point in trying. But that is not how mercy works. Even the smallest act done sincerely can be the spark that transforms a life. A gambler who refuses to eat non-halal food has, in that moment, declared, "I will still draw a line." That line may expand little by little until it leads them away from all forms of disobedience. A person who prays 2 rak'ah in a small corner of a casino may be setting the foundation for a lifetime of devotion. Do not belittle those actions, for the Almighty sees the heart behind them, and He values sincerity above all else. It is also a reminder to us to create such spaces of goodness wherever we can. Just as a prayer room can exist in a casino, why can we not create prayer spaces in our schools, in our workplaces, in our markets? Just as halal food can be offered in unlikely environments, why can we not ensure that what we provide for our families, our communities, and our gatherings is pure and permissible? The example shows us that it is possible. What remains is for us to put it into action. Reflect for a moment on the mercy of the Almighty. If He allows His remembrance to exist, even in a place designed to promote forgetfulness, how then should we who claim to love Him behave in our daily lives? Should we not make our homes places of remembrance? Should we not make our hearts places of prayer? Should we not fill our lives with halal choices even when surrounded by temptations? This is the lesson that such examples bring us. They show us that guidance is not confined, mercy is not limited, and the door to return is never closed. My brothers and sisters, another point we must consider is the test of sincerity. When someone prays in a place where it is easy to be distracted, their sincerity is tested. When someone insists on halal food in an environment where most people do not care, their sincerity shines. The Almighty loves those who choose Him even when the odds are against them. It is easy to do good when everyone around you is doing the same, but the true test is when you do good while surrounded by wrong. That is why these small spaces of light in dark environments are so significant. They test who will stand firm, who will choose purity, who will remember their Lord when others have forgotten. Think also about the message it sends to others. Imagine a person walking into a casino, never having thought about prayer, and suddenly they see a sign pointing toward a prayer room. Even if they do not use it, a seed is planted. They are reminded that prayer exists, that people still bow to their Creator, that no matter how far they have gone, there is still a way back. Similarly, when someone sees halal food on a menu surrounded by options of vice, they are reminded that purity is still possible. These reminders may seem small, but their impact is far-reaching. A seed planted today may bear fruit years later. A reminder seen in passing may be the one that awakens a soul at the right time. This is why we must never underestimate the power of reminders. A verse, a call to prayer, a word of encouragement, a small act of kindness, all of these can change lives. The Almighty uses means we cannot imagine to bring people back to Him. If He allows prayer rooms and halal food to exist in casinos, then surely He can use you and me as reminders too. By living with sincerity, by choosing what is halal, by prioritizing prayer, we can become walking reminders for those around us. People may see our actions, your choices, our character, and be inspired to return to their Lord. Now consider the deeper symbolism here. The casino represents the distractions of this world: wealth, pleasure, entertainment, and fleeting joy. The prayer room represents the eternal connection with the Almighty. The halal food represents the purity of sustenance that builds the foundation of a righteous life. Together, they paint a picture of the human journey. We live in a world full of distractions, but even here, we are given opportunities to choose eternal connection and purity. The question is, what will we choose? Will we be consumed by the noise of this world, or will we pause, step aside, and turn toward the Almighty? My brothers and sisters, we must also reflect on how easy it is to justify our wrongs. A person may say, what difference does halal food make when I'm already in a casino? Or, why pray here when the whole environment is sinful? But the reality is that every act of goodness matters, no matter how small. You do not know which act will be the one that tips the scale in your favor on the day of judgment. You do not know which choice will be the one that awakens your heart. You do not know which step will be the beginning of your return. That is why you should never abandon the small acts of good, even when you feel overwhelmed by mistakes. This also teaches us compassion for others. When we see someone struggling, we should not dismiss their efforts. We should not mock the gambler who chooses halal food or the sinner who prays in a casino. Instead, we should admire their effort and encourage them. We should say, may the Almighty accept it from you and increase you in goodness, for we do not know their struggle, and we do not know how beloved their effort is to their Creator. One tear of sincerity from a sinner may outweigh the pride of the self-righteous. And so let us take this lesson into our own lives. Wherever you are, whatever your circumstances, seek out the prayer room. If it does not exist physically, create it in your heart. Wherever you are, seek out the halal food. If it is not easy to find, make the effort to choose purity. These choices, though they may seem small, define the direction of your life. They strengthen your connection with the Almighty. They purify your heart, and they open the doors of mercy wide before you. My beloved brothers and sisters, remember that life is fleeting. The lights of this world will fade, the wealth will vanish, the laughter will quiet, but the prayer you performed and the halal you consumed will remain with you as provisions for the hereafter. The world may dazzle you like a casino, but always look for the reminders hidden within. Always choose the prayer room over the distractions, the halal over the haram, the eternal over the temporary. For in the end, it is those choices that will determine your true success. My beloved brothers and sisters, as we think further about this example, we realize it is not just about a prayer room or halal food in a casino. It is about the principle that wherever you are, whatever your condition, The Almighty has placed opportunities for you to remember Him and to return to Him. Life itself is filled with these moments, sometimes subtle, sometimes obvious. The question is whether we notice them, whether we seize them, whether we let them transform us. Look at the world around us. There are people who live in environments where almost everything pushes them away from what is right. Their friends, their work, their surroundings all seem to encourage sin or distraction. Yet even there, the Almighty provides them with openings. A friend who reminds them to pray, a billboard with a verse, a stranger offering halal food, a quiet moment when the heart feels restless and yearns for something more. These moments are the prayer rooms in the casinos of our daily lives. They may appear small, but they are lifelines. If we ignore them, we drift further into darkness. If we grasp them, they pull us toward the light. We often think guidance must come in a dramatic way, like a sudden dream or a miraculous event. But in reality, it often comes quietly. A single prayer made in sincerity can open doors to a lifetime of devotion. A single bite of halal food chosen consciously can become the start of a journey toward purity. A single choice to walk into that prayer room can rewrite a person's destiny. That is why we must never overlook the power of one small step. The Almighty loves consistency, even if it is small. One sincere step toward Him is more valuable than 100 empty strides made for show. Think about the mercy behind this. Imagine a person who has spent years immersed in vice. The world would write them off. Society would call them hopeless, and even they themselves may believe they can never change. But the Almighty, in His boundless mercy, allows them to see a prayer room in the very place they have been sinning. That is not coincidence. It is mercy calling out to them, saying, "Return, the door is still open." Imagine their heart trembling as they walk in, uncertain, ashamed, but hopeful. That moment, my brothers and sisters, could be more powerful than years of outward displays of piety without sincerity. And what about halal food in such a place? It is not just about eating what is permissible. It is about a reminder that no matter where you are, you can still make a choice that pleases your Creator. It is about drawing a line and saying, yes, I may be struggling, but I will not let go of everything. That one decision can awaken the heart. It can bring blessings into a person's body, energy into their worship, and clarity into their mind. How often do we underestimate the spiritual power of what we consume? When you choose halal, you are not just filling your stomach, you are feeding your soul with obedience. Now let us think about ourselves. We may not be in casinos, but we all have our challenges, our distractions, our weaknesses. What are the casinos in your life? Is it your phone, endlessly scrolling through what wastes your time? Is it your friends who invite you to what displeases the Almighty? Is it your workplace where prayer is neglected, or your routine where halal and haram are blurred? Each of us has our own environment of temptation. But within those environments, the Almighty has placed prayer rooms and halal food, meaning opportunities for us to choose Him, to remember Him, to stay pure. The question is, do we see them and do we act upon them? Let us also reflect on the concept of hope. The existence of such spaces in places of vice is a powerful message that it is never too late. How often do people despair, believing that their sins are too many, their past too dark, their mistakes too heavy? Yet the Almighty tells us, do not despair of my mercy. If He can allow prayer and halal sustenance to exist in casinos, then surely He can forgive a sinner who turns back to Him. Surely He can guide the lost heart. Surely He can accept the broken soul that returns sincerely. This example is a living proof that no place is too dark for His light to enter, and no heart is too lost for His mercy to reach. My brothers and sisters, another lesson we can take is that change often begins with courage. It takes courage to walk into a prayer room when you are surrounded by people who are chasing vice. It takes courage to ask for halal food when others mock you for caring. It takes courage to declare your faith through your actions, even when the environment around you is hostile. But that courage, even in small amounts, is beloved to the Almighty. He sees the struggle behind it, and He rewards it in ways beyond our imagination. That one courageous act may be the seed that grows into an entire tree of righteousness. We must also remind ourselves not to be arrogant. Just because we may not be in such places, it does not make us better than those who are struggling. Perhaps the person praying in a casino is more beloved to the Almighty than the one praying in a mosque with arrogance. Perhaps the one insisting on halal food in a place of vice is more sincere than the one who eats halal daily but never appreciates its value. We cannot see the hearts, but the Almighty can. That is why we must focus on our own journey and encourage others in theirs. Never belittle someone's effort, no matter how small it seems, and never assume you are superior because you do not face the same struggles. Imagine too the ripple effect such efforts can have. A single person praying in that room might inspire another to do the same. One person insisting on halal food might encourage the establishment to offer more halal options. Over time, these small acts could transform entire environments. Guidance spreads like light, one candle lighting another until the whole room is illuminated. Your single act of sincerity may be the spark that lights up many lives. And so, my beloved brothers and sisters, the lesson is clear. Wherever you are, hold on to your connection with the Almighty. Even if you feel surrounded by sin, do not give up on the small acts of good. Even if you feel weak, cling to the halal, cling to the prayer, cling to the remembrance of your Lord. These actions are your lifelines, your anchors, your pathways back to Him. The world may dazzle and distract like a casino, but the reminders are always there. Look for the prayer rooms. Look for the halal meals. Look for the opportunities to obey, and you will find that the Almighty never leaves you without guidance. This is not just about physical spaces. It is about an attitude, a mindset, a way of living. It is about training your heart to seek out the halal in every situation, to carve out time and space for prayer no matter where you are, to remain conscious of your Lord even when the world tries to make you forget. It is about refusing to let your environment dictate your faith. Instead, you let your faith transform your environment. And remember, the most powerful prayer room is the one within your heart. The most important halal sustenance is the purity of your intentions. If you guard your heart, if you purify your choices, then no matter where you are, you will always be connected to the Almighty. The lights of the casino may fade, the noise may drown out everything else, but the light within your heart will remain, guiding you back to Him